Madam Chair, everyone is in from the waiting room.
Thanks so much, Monty. Good evening, everyone. The time is, it's Tuesday, September 27th, 2022. The time is 6:04 p.m. and I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Chairman Brackett isn't with us tonight. He is at back to school night for the elementary school, so hope he enjoys that. And I believe that Selectman Lilia may be joining us for a bit, but I know he has another commitment this evening as well. So goodness, I'm feeling like rusty. So just correct me if I miss anything. I haven't done this in a while. First on the agenda this evening is public comment. So if you would either raise your hand or the raise hand button on the Zoom. First is great. Go ahead, Monty, you do it.
James, you've been unmuted. Could you state your name and address of the record?
Yeah, hi, my name is James McLeod. The address is 9 Bearskin Neck.
Great, go right ahead.
Thank you. So my comment, I just have something to read. This is in regard to a street performer outside of our store. And this has been drafted by myself and my wife, Elizabeth McLeod. So first, thank you to the board for allowing us to speak. I respectfully ask the board to review the street performer's permit for a man who repeatedly performs outside of our store on Bearskin Neck. I'm formally challenging the use of this space as an approved location for street performance adjacent to 9 Bearskin Neck. As a new member of the small business community here in Rockport, I'm aware of the many laws and regulations that have been put in place to protect those who live and work here in this beautiful town. And I'm reminded daily of how lucky we are every time I open my doors to the public. This space that on the particular street performer occupies is not a sidewalk. It's a narrow road shared by vehicles and pedestrians and dogs and strollers. The mere presence of a performer in this location is dangerous. I'm not asking the board members, the board to remove the performer permanently, but rather to move the performance and ask the performer to follow the rules laid out by your committee. All performers be required to provide dates of performances for approval, adhere to start times to 3-hour max performance, as well as the 1 weekday and non-consecutive weekend, all of which are and have been continuously and consistently broken since we opened our store 3 years ago. The First Amendment affords us the right to free speech, but those rights are not absolute. When we stated laws are violated, there are consequences. This is not about denying someone's right to perform or play music in a public space, but rather follow the standards set forth by your Board of Selectmen stated in policy, specifically policy 20-11. Those seeking to exercise the artistic right of the sing-song and still bound by the general rules of engagement. The applicant or performer has submitted the bare minimum information, and that's the requirement that we believe is not accurate at the time for this particular performer. Another requirement is that the performer has 3 locations, that there are 3 locations for said sing-song with an additional location for use on case-by-case approval. The 3 locations given at the end of Bearskin Neck, the beginning of Bearskin Neck, and the middle of Donovan's Corner. This location this street performer occupies is not on this list. I cannot speak to the acoustics of each location as I'm not a professional sound engineer, but I believe that these 3 locations all share one thing in common. They are all large, relatively open public spaces. The noise created in front of my store is projected by a wall of buildings directly behind. The sound reverberating off the buildings directly in front of the supposed approved location is unbearable and has a serious impact on our businesses and the businesses around us. And there's no buffer here. The sound bounces off the buildings and overwhelms every business within a stone's throw. And it's a nuisance, and it's our right to tell you this. It's every 5 to 7 hours Saturday and every Sunday this music is played. We pay taxes for the right to operate a business, and we all have the right to freedom of speech. We also have the right to acoustic freedom and freedom not to have to listen to somebody else's music from inside our own store, regardless of whether the door is open or closed. This street performer in particular has been threatening people, and threatening anyone who asks a performer to play in any other approved location is uncalled for and should not be met with threats of lawsuits or calls to the ACLU. The level of aggressive pushback on the part of the performer is frightening and is meant to be intimidating, and frankly makes us all question if he in fact has been approved by the board at all. So in conclusion, if there are no consequences for violating the very rules laid out by the board, why publish them? What is the good of a $100 fine for each violation when no one will enforce the policy as written? What precedence is being set when one can use the threat of a lawsuit to override the laws and procedures adhered to by everyone else? I hope that you will please consider our statements. We've been working hard on this, have tried all avenues, and are really at a loss at this point. And we hope we may work together with you to find a solution that respects all parties involved. Thank you again.
Great. Thanks, James. Let me just make a comment, and then I know Selectman Murphy has his hand up, and the town administrator may kick in as well. So I completely understand, and actually sharing your frustration. I've actually seen the street performer multiple times, including just this past Sunday. I was down there with my kids. Unfortunately, and since 2020, I forget what month it was, I'm sure the town administrator knows, we haven't been able to enforce any of our street performer permits or regulations because of an issue with the ACLU and a street performer going to the ACLU. And we've been advised by town council that we aren't able to actually even follow our, any of our regulations. So I have kind of consistently told people, if you feel unsafe, if it's if there are any issues whatsoever, to call the police, because frankly, I think that may be the only recourse we have, is to say it's an unsafe location, or or the performer is a threat to our safety. I'm happy to have us circle back to town council on this again, but that's kind of why we haven't been able to do anything about it. I will, Selectman Murphy, did you want to comment?
No, you said pretty much what I was going to say. And when we advise people to call the police, it's not like we want them arrested. When you call the police, there's a actual record. It's not hearsay, it's not Rockport stuff, it's not this or that, whatever. It's on the record. So that's why we do that. But I was going to say very similar to what Selectwoman Wilkinson said.
Yeah, I mean, for example, if I said something to the street performer and they were to talk inappropriately back to me, I would immediately call the police and just get it put on record, so that when we speak to
On the
town
blotter
about issues, the police chief has a clear record of it, which can be very helpful. Mitch, did you want to add anything to this or clarify anything I said?
I think you've covered it. You're exactly right, Madam Chair, that town council was very clear after our interactions with the ACLU a few years ago on that it was a fundamental alteration to the process that we had used. We were no longer able to do that.
Yeah, but I am happy to add it to the list when we speak with town council again, to see if there have been, any updates, or if any towns have had anything else, if there have been any changes to the rule. And then can you, I have your name, but it would be helpful if you could just shoot to the selectman's email address, your email, so we could stay in touch with you. Great. Thanks so much. Christina, or sorry, Monty, I'll let you handle.
Christina, you've been unmuted. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Thank you. Christina Wilcox, 24 Rear King Street, and also 5 Bearskin Neck in Rockport. I'm the owner of Rockport Candle Company. And I just want to back up what James is talking about. It's become such a prevalent issue every single weekend, every single Saturday, and every single Sunday. And I just would like to inquire, based on the feedback that you, the Board of Selectmen, have offered, is that there's a problem with the process. What does that mean? How can we adjust the process? And is there any way we could reach out to the ACLU again? Because my question is, like, if we had a protest, for example, or if you went into Boston to participate in a protest, you are exercising your free speech, right? And we have every right to do that. However, you still have to comply with the local laws. You still have to follow the rules for the protest. You still have to move along when the police come along and say, okay, time's up, you've had enough, let's move on, right? We still have to obey those laws. Why is this any different? Why is a musician allowed to exercise his freedom of expression nonstop without anyone. And we have called the police. If you wish for us to call the police more consistently, we will. It's just that in the past, when the police have come down, they have spoken to the gentleman. And from what I can hear from my shop, they then leave apologizing to him for the interruption. So that doesn't seem to be anything that's going to help at all. But if it helps to have something on record, we will continue to call every hour if we have to, because it has become so disruptive. You know, if we could reach out to town council again, I'm just imploring you to help us find some kind of solution, some kind of recommendation. We'll do just about anything to help bring this to some kind of resolution. It's been at least 2 years of nonstop Saturdays and Sundays. What would happen if we invited other random musicians to show up and perch in his spot instead, or in every other shop location up and down the neck? We could have musicians, if there's no repercussion for them to play.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, and I don't want to belabor this just because we have a big agenda, but and I will definitely circle back with town council. But it's not actually our process. It's the fact that there are regulations and that he has the right to play wherever he wants. And we've been told that the shop owner whose shop he plays in front of has actually welcomed him to play there and is supportive of it. And frankly, we've basically been told that anyone can play anywhere. So while we work so hard, so we shouldn't, I don't want to get in a back and forth, but please do continue to call the police, because it is actually very helpful. I know it can be frustrating, but it is very, very helpful. And we'll talk to town council.
Just one last note. I have one of my helpers in my shop who has told me that she is no longer willing to work for me on the weekends. Why? Is the work too hard? Does she not like the tourists? No, none of the above. It's because of the music. She cannot take another day. That's how bad it is.
I know it's frustrating. Okay, we do have to keep moving just because we have a big agenda. Go ahead, Monty. I think there are a couple more.
Karen, you've been unmuted. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Thanks. It's Karen Chambers, 108 Granite Street, also 23 Bearskin Neck. I'm down past the pewter shop, and I'm here with support with James and Christina as well. It's gotten to a point where I even have my music up, and you can't hear music in my own store because all you hear is the echoing of this going on downtown. My husband and I have had words with him. We've asked him to, to have a time limit. He gets very aggressive with us. And I'm wondering what town council could do. I mean, it's a historical district. Could it be trustees of Bearskin Neck be created? Could there be some other way of permitting that would de-escalate this? And that's what I'm hoping we could find out.
Okay, thanks. We'll definitely speak with them again. And I think we know how to, I think if James sends his contact info, I know how to reach the. Thanks.
Yeah.
Next, Monty.
Hazel Beatus, you've been unmuted.
Okay, hello, Hazel Bettis, 23 King Street in Rockport. About 10 days ago, on social media, I saw that the town had been given $2 million for something. In the government, it was a government grant or something. And Mr. Brackett came back on social media when someone asked him, was it being spent? And he said, oh, come to the meetings at the Board of Selectmen. Well, I've just found out it's on Zoom, and this is my first Zoom thing, so I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, the questions that I would like answering, if possible, is, do we have $2 million? And if we have $2 million, what are we going to spend it on? Who decides what we're going to spend it on? And has it already been spent? And if it has already been spent, have we got an account of it? Because I find $2 million is a lot of money. So if someone could tell me what Rockport is spending it on, I'd
Great.
appreciate it.
Great. Welcome to your first Board of Selectmen Zoom. It's nice to have you. For that, I will defer to the town administrator because he will be able to give the most succinct answer on COVID money.
Sure, certainly, Madam Chair. So the town, like all other municipalities, is in the process of receiving funding. We do not have all of the funding in place yet. The final determination on the spending of any funding is the Board of Selectmen. All of that would be done in one of their public meetings. To date, the only money that the selectmen have released from the amount of money that we do have in hand from it, it is not the full amount yet, has been for COVID tests. The uses for the fund are limited. There are, I want to say, 5 or 6 particular categories where the funding could be spent in. And that's something that, again, would be decided in a public meeting when the time does come for it. And, those categories, broadly speaking, include water, sewer infrastructure, affordable housing. I'd have to look at the rest. Those are the 2 that stand out. COVID, obviously COVID remediation. That's really the prime source of it. So COVID remediation and ventilation, things of that nature.
Right.
But it has not been.
It's COVID recovery money, so it has to be spent. Unfortunately, it's not like we've just been given $2 million to spend wherever we wish, but it all has to be. And when we have vote, like the night that we voted in the tests, it was on our agenda. We discussed it, and then anything further. But like any, we would of course be welcome to anyone having any suggestions. At some point, we can share the categories and as we move forward. Denise, did you have a comment about that?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we explain the source of the money, that it's federal money that comes from ARPA, and I forget the name of that law, but it's related to COVID recovery, and every municipality in Massachusetts was allocated an amount.
Yeah, great. Thanks much. Hope that's helpful. Okay, next, Monty.
Bill Tobin, you've been unmuted. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Yeah, Bill Tobin, 24 Beach Street. Okay, I would like to ask, and hopefully we can get a response. And where is the COVID money accounting procedures? Where are those? Are they going to be a public document that the public can look at?
So I'll answer and then I'll go to Mitch, but every penny that the town spends is accounted for because it's all public money. So I think there was some, talk on social media about nothing is hidden, it's all done, it's all approved in public meetings. And then Mitch, you can answer how it's accounted
Sure.
for.
So it's accounted for the exact same way as all other public funds. It goes through our accounting process. Anything that's paid out has to have appropriate documentation. It has to be part of that documentation includes the authorization from this board to be able to spend in that category. So it's the exact same accounting management process that we use for all other funds, local, state, and federal.
But there's a process.
It is a process, and it's certainly something that, as part, we have to report back to the federal government at varying points in time on what it's spent on. They have the right to audit it. It's something certainly that our regular auditors would look at as well. It's a stringent and uniform process for spending that money, just like all other public funds.
Great. I think Bill had a quick follow-up.
Are we going to put it on our town website, Mitch, when this is all taking place?
No,
So the people can
no.
know that this is going to happen. You know what I mean? In other words, for instance, you got $200,000 a while back for COVID relief. Is it possible to put this accounting on the town website? Is that okay? Is that legal? So we can
No.
see it. In other words, what we're trying to do, I think, Sarah, is stop this social media rumor mill
It'll never
from
stop, Bill. It will
continuing.
Never gonna stop, Bill.
Well,
Right.
Never, Bill,
I
come
don't
on.
think that's
You're from
an answer,
Cambridge. You
Mr.
know what
Murphy.
this is like.
That's not Mr. Murphy.
So I think the
that's not
answer to that
answer.
question is it's up to the selectmen if
Pretty
they wish to,
Yeah.
wish to place it on the website.
So Bill, here's how I don't want to digress because we're getting off track, but
Yeah.
but the way that we answered the social media rumor mill is just by doing things properly and appropriately and totally transparent and totally upfront. Our agendas are posted online and at town hall. I encourage people to come to our meetings. The accounting will be done just like every other penny of public funds. But I don't think we're going to randomly start putting things start putting accounting on the town website. It's just, I think we're going to follow things that are, consistent practices of how we spend public funds and how we always have. And, anyone is welcome. We were just recently audited. We have a third party audit the town's finances each year. And as far as I've been on the board, which is 20 years, close to 20 years, I don't think they've ever found a significant issue. So I'm pretty comfortable sticking with with what we've done. But everything will be discussed and decided in public meetings. Does anyone have anything to add to that?
No,
Paul?
I concur with you, Sarah, and it's always been that way, and we will continue that way. And again, there's checks and balances in local government as there is everywhere else. And if there is mismanagement, it's going to come out. So, but yes, we will continue to put all our efforts into public meetings, having people come to them. They got to show up and not go on to Rockport stuff.
Yeah, and anyone is welcome to give suggestions, reach out to any of the five of
absolutely.
us, give suggestions on how to spend the COVID funds, or, frankly, any other funds, but we are readily accessible, I would say. So
I would hope so.
Denise, did you want to add anything to that?
No, totally agree.
Great, thanks. Okay, anybody else, Monty?
At this time, I do not see anybody else with their hand up.
Great. Moving on, we have an exciting moment in time to consider appointment of a conservation agent. I want to pinch us.
Yeah. So Madam Chair, I'm very pleased to introduce to the board and the public, Mr. John Lopez, who has accepted our offer of conservation agent for the town. He is here with us this evening, and if it's all right, I would like to ask John to give us an overview of his background. And before I do that, though, the process. So he was vetted previously by some former members of the commission. He went through an interview with one of the selectmen. He went through an interview, a couple of interviews with me. And, I think his background is uniquely suited to be able to help us get the Conservation Commission engine running again and help move us forward in a really positive way. We're very fortunate to have someone with experience, which is a challenge these days to come by. So we're very, very pleased to have him with us. So with that, John, I'd ask if you could introduce yourself and give us a summary of your background and experience.
Sure. Well, thank you. Thank you, Mitch. And thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to brief the commission on my background and my candidacy. I've been a conservation agent for the city of Amesbury for about 14 years, a little over 14 years. Concomitant with that, I've been a conservation commissioner for the town of Georgetown. No longer, but I currently am on the Georgetown Open Space Committee. As conservation agent for the city of Amesbury, I'm responsible, as I'm sure you know, Madam Chair, for administrating the state and local wetlands laws, regulations, and their performance standards. I also serve as the liaison, the technical staff liaison to the Amesbury Open Space Committee. In my capacity, I assist the chair and Open Space Committee in currently finalizing an open space plan, which is somewhat the first of its kind, in that we were awarded a municipal vulnerability grant a few years back, And we incorporated vulnerability and resiliency into a revised open space plan. We're told by those who administer the grant program at the state level, it's the first of its kind. So that's nice, and it serves as a model for other communities. My background, academic background, I hold a master's degree in marine affairs with an emphasis in coastal zone management and ocean management and policy from the University of Rhode Island. And I have a lot of experience in piping plovers. So I'm looking forward to re-engaging. Prior to this, I spent some time in Washington, where I served as a National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration marine policy legislative aide in Congress, where I worked for a congressman on the House Resources Committee, and then for, at the time, the Massachusetts senior senator on Gulf of Maine ocean policy.
Oh, great. Well, welcome, John. Thank you so much for that. And just so members of the public who are joining us know, John has already, as Mitch stated, been fully vetted. So this isn't an interview where we ask like typical interview questions because he has already been fully vetted. And Denise, I believe that you were the select woman that interviewed John as well. So this is just a chance for us to meet him, get to know him, you know, ask some questions, but this isn't an actual like full interview. I just want people to know that, you know, the 5 minutes we spend with you right now isn't it. But I actually was in Amesbury for a soccer game last week, and it's a lovely community as well. And I love that besides your professional experience, your volunteer experience as well. I always love to see that. Do other board members, Paul?
Yep, thank you, Madam Chair. John, what made you apply to the town of Rockport?
Well, primarily the opportunities to re-engage in coastal zone management. That's my thing. I'm at Pebble Beach year-round looking at birds. So I thought this would be a unique opportunity to indulge myself and to provide my expertise to the town.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for putting your name forward.
Thank you.
Denise?
Yeah, John, it's nice to see you in person, and I'm so thrilled, as I'm sure we all are, that you've accepted the position. And you and I have spoken before. I just wanted to mention that we had a nesting pair of piping plovers on Cape Hedge Beach this year, but they didn't make it. So with you on board, I think we'll have a better chance of making a habitat for them that they can survive. So welcome and congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's my plan, to see if we can get a fledgling pair next season.
Yep.
Thanks so much. Do you have anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, Madam Chair. If anyone has questions, I'd be happy to answer them. But thank you for the opportunity to present myself.
This is so exciting. And then I know the plan is for you to start in a few weeks, correct? Mitch, did you want to add anything? I know that this must be a pinch me moment for you because you have been working for months and months on this. And I know that you're thrilled with John.
Yes, we're very happy to have him. Selectman Lee is also here, Madam Chair.
Oh, great.
We are certainly thrilled to have him on board. You know, there's a lot waiting for him when he comes in. You know, we're going to do our best over the next couple of weeks to make sure that it's not totally overbearing, but we are very happy to have his expertise on board, and having somebody who will be at the other end of the phone or an email who's a really great subject matter expert will be certainly a very big plus. And as John shared with his background, you know, we always, one of the comments that I heard when we went through this search and the previous one for an agent was they really need coastal experience. They really need coastal experience. And in addition to general experience, and that's something that's not always easy to find. Mm-hmm. You know, we found that. That's John's strong suit. So we're really, really pleased to do that, to have him on board for something like this. And I know he'll be able to hit the ground running, and he'll be a great resource for helping the commission to move forward and being their SME on conservation matters.
Yeah, I know just the fact, I mean, I remember when we first started the search and several of the resumes we got were, I hesitate to say kids, but like kids, right out of school with little to no experience. And unfortunately, being a coastal community, we have a lot of complicated matters. I mean, there are members of the Conservation Commission on here tonight, and we've discussed this, that this isn't really the ideal community for somebody just out of school to kind of get their feet wet. So I think the fact that John is familiar with Pebble Beach, has such an experience with oceans and marine life, I think will be a win-win. So Selectman Lilia, I didn't see when you joined, but I didn't know if you had any questions or comments for John Lopez.
No particular questions or comments, although perhaps I'll take that back. I am curious about your philosophy. I welcome you. We look forward to having you, although this is before the fact. Your credentials suggest that we should have you in Rockport working for us or helping us out. So I'll start with that. But given the fact that you may or may not know that Rockport is in need of low income and moderate income housing, do you have a philosophy associated with the role that the Conservation Commission should adopt or have as their practicing motto when considering the development of any area in town? There are those in town who believe all the property is sacrosanct. I don't. I think there's a need for housing. So what might you add to this philosophy that I just sort of expressed?
Well, Selectman, that's a great question. And I'd like to keep things simple. And I've always stressed to my commission, and I'm very fortunate in that I have a very supportive, strong chair and vice chair and a very strong commission. To put it simply, if something meets the performance standards and the regulations, then to not approve something is arbitrary and capricious. Then it's the responsibility of the Conservation Commission or commissioner to provide a written persuasive argument as to how a proposed project does not meet it. But if a project meets the performance standards, regardless whether it's a 40B or whether it's a commercial development, if it meets the performance standards, sufficient mitigation is provided, and the commission has the necessary information to base an intelligent, insightful decision, that being the best science available and the law, then a project should be approved.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, we look forward to you, John. You're going to start tomorrow at 9, right?
I think if
Yeah, we've got a couple weeks for John for his transition from
I'm just
Amherst.
kidding.
We certainly don't want to leave them
only
high and
kidding.
dry. But I will say certainly from this end that I do look forward to the moment where we can tell people, no, please call the Conservation Commission office for conservation matters.
I have no doubt, Mitch. I have no doubt.
Really look forward to that.
Great.
Welcome to Rockport, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Is there a motion?
Yes, I have a motion. I move that the board appoint John Lopez as conservation agent, employee at will, effective October 20, 2022.
I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further comments from the board? Hearing none, roll call vote. Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you so much. Welcome to Rockport.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone.
You get a Zoom round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We look forward to meeting you in a few weeks.
Thank you. Same here. Have a
Great.
nice evening, everyone.
You as
You
well.
just added about 25 years to Mitch's life.
I think that's probably, certainly one of the harder parts, and one of the, again, reasons we're glad to have John and his experience, that the majority of things that come through are not necessarily filings. It's folks who have genuine questions and looking for helpful guidance. And I know that they'll be in good hands when they speak to John about that.
Definitely. Okay, moving on, more good news on the Conservation Commission. We have consider the appointment of Conservation Commission member. We have Nathaniel Mulcahy joining us this evening. Good evening,
everybody.
Nathaniel.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Nice to see you. And I wasn't at the last meeting where we appointed Laura Evans, but I'm just going to go with what we usually go with. If you could just tell us a bit about yourself, your experience, and what is drawing you to volunteer for the Conservation Commission.
Of course. So I have an unusually diverse background, but for the past 20 years, I've been in charge of developing environmental solutions and policies, predominantly through the United Nations, but in a humanitarian context, I've dealt with environmental policies and the development of and implementation of them in 16 different countries at this point. I've been invited as a participant to every UN climate conference since 2008 because my company, which is called World Stove, a small humanitarian engineering company, was the first company in the world that was ever certified as carbon negative. I have a specialization in marine biology. I deal with coastal development. My engineering background is specifically in fluid dynamics, which makes me unusually well suited for coastal issues, sea level rise, and climate issues. In terms of local, by local meaning not Africa, not Afghanistan, not Rwanda or Darfur, but by local I mean Massachusetts. Some of the projects that I've done in this country is I'm as an alternative to seawalls. With seawalls really accelerate the erosion of beaches. They don't really protect the coastline. And so I was placed in charge of developing a nature-based solution, which are using native species to create artificial dunes that are self-growing and self-perpetuating. In the areas where we've implemented these artificial dunes, the dunes then become actual nature-based dunes. And over a 12-year period, we've been able to measure that in the areas where the seawalls were, the beaches have eroded and become smaller. However, in the areas where we've placed the artificial dunes, satellite images have shown that over the course of 12 years, despite sea level rise and despite growing intensities of storms, we've actually made the beaches grow longer in depth and higher in distance. So a real positive impact, which means there are nature-based solutions. And for Rockport and specifically, where we have, one of the questions that was asked recently of other candidates is, do you believe we should retreat from the coastline? And honestly, I mean, Cape Cod has done retreat, but when you deal with something like a historic center, there is no physical way to retreat a historic center. And so you need to start looking at ways that are preferably nature-based, preferably using only native species, and study the local fluid dynamics so that the solutions that are implemented can be used in such a way that we can protect our historic center while protecting our coastline. Moving inland then, for the Wetland Protection Act, part of my specialization is in shellfish, and obviously any impact within the wetlands area and our Great Marsh has long-term impacts on the shellfish industry, both in terms of biology and in terms of economy. So all of those have been parts of my research through the UNH, through VIMS, which is down in Virginia Marine Institute, and through OBAN, which is the Scottish Institute of Marine Sciences, all of which I've been a researcher at and a scientist at.
That's wow. That's very impressive. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Selectman, Chairman, Madam Chairman, one sort of personal note. In Rwanda, I work with a population of people called the Twa. They're a native people. And Damasen, who is a good friend of mine there, once said, Umugamu, which is what he calls me, you do so much for us. What do you do at your home? Madam Chair, this is what my answer is to Damasen.
That's great. Thank you so much. Are there questions or comments for Nathaniel from other board members? Paul?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Nathaniel, first of all, thank you for running for state rep and putting your name out there. I admire anyone Republican, Democrat, Independent, whatever, that put, throws their hat into their arena. So thank you for running for state rep.
My
What do you
pleasure.
specifically bring to this commission that would be unique for Rockport? Is there anything that you have, a cause that you really want to embrace?
My Selectman Murphy, thank you very much for the comment on running for office, and specifically within Rockport. When I was in Gloucester and I lived in Gloucester, I was part of the Shellfish Commission. I see the value of the preciousness of the Wetland Protection Act as having an impact on our economy. The shellfish industry within Massachusetts is often overlooked and hugely important. The ecologies, the invasive species issues that we're dealing with, these are all things that are near and dear to my heart. And I think 20 years of experience is something that not many other people can bring to the table in terms of dealing with invasive species. We have, if you go down, earlier this evening, we were talking about Pebble Beach. There are Phragmites invasive issues there, which have a serious impact on our wetlands. I've dealt now for 15 years with the invasive species, same species, Phragmites, in the river between Mauritania and Senegal. I was hired by Senegal specifically to deal with that. So I come with 15 years of experience in dealing with the very issues that Rockport currently is dealing with when it comes to protecting their wetlands. And I think that's something that's valuable. And I'm happy to share that with my community, which is the home where we've chosen to raise our children.
Wonderful.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Great. Other members? Herm?
Yes. Yes, Nathan. Nice that you are offering to us all of the experience that you have. I am, however, curious about your personal beliefs, personal interests in the development of any land as yet undeveloped in Rockport. There is a need for, again, low-income housing, middle-income housing. That will require that land will be disturbed. Are you in favor of additional housing in Rockport? Number one. And number two, do you see the Conservation Commission as not just a source of query, not just a source of, in a sense, preventing what might take place, but it also can be a support for what is also necessary in town? How do you respond to any of what I said?
So, Selectman Leah, thank you for the questions and your interest. There is no question that Rockport needs housing. My wife and I are lucky enough to own our home now. Should we have moved to Rockport now, there is no way we could afford to move here. So there is no question in my mind that Rockport needs more housing, and specifically more affordable housing. That said, the Rockport Conservation Commission is charged with enforcing and adhering to the Wetlands Protection Act. That is our charge. So I believe that those are not mutually exclusive issues. Rockport is a growing community. There is no question that we need more housing. And there are ways that the Rockport Conservation Commission can look at each area and find areas that are appropriate for development as opposed to areas that are not appropriate. So, I mean, if my choice is to build on, say, if you go up, what is that road that goes way up to the top and there's a pile of rocks where there used to be a hospital?
Summit Ave.
Thank you. Thank you. If I had a choice of building something there, if there's a permit to build something there, versus filling in a salt marsh and building something there, I think the answer is pretty clear. There are ways that we can assess different things and say, is this going to meet the housing need? Great. Is there a way that there's a way to meet the housing need without having a negative impact? Fantastic. And in the ideal world, Selectman Leah, if we can find a way to not only meet the housing and protect the environment, but at the same time, perhaps correct some of the mistakes that people before we really understood the Wetland Protection Act came into place, that would be a win-win-win situation, meaning more housing and actually restoration of parts of the environment, which, you know, during quarrying period, during different times of, you know, people have not always been environmentally aware. I mean, in my childhood, people were dumping things that shouldn't be dumped. Rachel Carson's book was fantastic, and it woke us up to the importance of DDT. That doesn't mean that we have to stick to the old systems. There are ways to correct the past errors and move forward while providing development and protecting the environment. Those are not mutually exclusive things. And I think the real challenge for the Conservation Commission is to assist the agent to find sort of the Goldilocks solution where we are able to enforce and adhere to the obligations of the Wetland Protection Act, while at the same time guaranteeing the highest number of possible affordable housing units for our community. Because right now, teachers can't afford to live here, policemen can't afford to live here. These are primary members of our society that we need to have locally, and having them not be local is a detriment to us as a community.
I appreciate your philosophy as you've expressed it. The willingness to work with and some unknown developer with regard to a particular piece of property in town is in fact commendable. So
Selectman Leah, I give you also a personal story from my work background. Nathaniel Mulcahy is an easy name to pronounce in English, not so easy if you're Kinyarwandin. And so in each of the countries I work in, I'm given a different name. Nanabotwi Adontaheni is the name they call me in Ghana. And in Rwanda, they call me Umugamu Wigisubizu. And Umugamu Wigisubizu is the name I am most proud of, because what it means in Kinyarwandin is the man who works to find solutions. That is the same commitment I'm willing to make to Rockport.
This is what Rockport needs, so welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions or comments?
Nope, thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, is there a motion?
There is. I move that the board appoint Nathaniel Mulcahy as a member of the Conservation Commission with a term to expire June 30, 2023, subject to the board committee commission membership policy and completion of the MACC Commissioner Certification Series by June 30, 2023.
I'll second that.
Great. Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectwoman Wilkinson, aye. All those in favor? Great. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you. We'll be in touch in the next day or two, Nathaniel.
Welcome.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Great. Big night for the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, I'm feeling very green. Da-da-dun.
Okay, moving on. On the consent agenda this evening, we have, actually, should we have a motion and then I'll say what's on it?
Certainly, Madam Chair, I move that the Board of Selectmen approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Tonight's consent agenda, we have the Thatcher Road Bridge repair contract, the Dock Square pump replacement contract, minutes, I believe there are minutes in there, and consider acceptance of $300 to the lifeguard program from the Long Beach Improvement Association. And that is a donation. I saw the note today from Stacy Ho, treasurer of the Long Beach Improvement Association, a donation of $300 towards lifeguard gear with a thanks for all the town and lifeguards do it at Long Beach, which was very nice.
When I read that, I thought I was so pleased with that. I mean, Long Beach is obviously a jewel in the town of Rockport, and for them to step up to give that donation was heartfelt and greatly appreciated by the town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mitch, did you have anything to add about the consent agenda?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay. Any further comments?
Nope.
Hearing none. All those in favor, Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
And Selectwoman Wilkinson, aye. Motion carries. Great. And let's see, next we have, now this is something we haven't seen in all my years on the board. We
I
have-
am fired. Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
Consider approval of a comfort dog program.
Madam Chair,
have-
we have Chief Horvath, Lieutenant Marino, and Officer Anderson here to share this exciting.
Can I just say, I am so psyched to have this conversation. I mean, out of all the 12, 13, 15, whatever I've been on, this is a good one. Sorry.
We'll
I
let
can't
Paul,
help it.
we'll let Paul have a moment and then you can explain the program, Chief.
No, I'm good, but I love this. I absolutely love this.
Welcome, Chief and Lieutenant Marino. And it was, did you say it was someone else here?
Officer Anderson is here
Oh,
as well.
Officer Anderson. He's not on my screen. We're like a there he is.
Just, yep, his camera's on now.
Good
Hi.
evening, Officer Anderson. I was recently told by my middle school boy, hopefully Phil Wesley isn't on tonight, that you're the coolest SRO.
Big shoe. Oh, that would Phil leaving.
Big shoes to fill. So welcome to the three of you. Chief, I'll hand it off to you.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. Good evening, everybody. I'm here to briefly discuss our Comfort Dog program and then allow the board to ask any questions of myself, Lieutenant Marino, or our SRO, Mike Anderson. So the Comfort Dog program is really to provide the opportunity for meaningful interactions during our daily operations, both in the school as well as the community. Help with sensitive incidents, reduce anxiety, enhance effective communications. And at the end of the day, based on Selectman Murphy's intro, it's just fun. I mean, most people love dogs, and I think getting a dog up to the school would certainly help a lot of the students and probably a lot of the staff and faculty up there. So we envision using the Comfort Dog primarily at the school complex during the academic year. The dog would be partnered with Mike Anderson, who's our school resource officer. He's up there 5 days a week. During the school year, they'll work as a team to further develop partnerships and relationships up in the school. It can be a positive incentive, for some students that want to visit with the dog. You do well in school, you behave, you can spend some time with with Officer Anderson and the dog. So, as well as help school officials and students if there's some difficult times going on up there. So, in addition to being up at the school, we envision using the Comfort Dog team at some of our elderly housing facilities in partnership with the management there, in order to meet and greet with residents for good, positive, compassionate interactions with our elderly population. The Comfort Dog team will also be available, throughout the summer downtown at some of our special events, and just a whole host of photo ops, to put on our website and social media. With regards to funding, we want to be fiscally responsible. We plan, if approved by the board, to assemble a small team of police department members to develop the program and identify funding sources through donations. I anticipate the cost to maintain the canine will be between $2,400 to $3,000 a year annually, which obviously is, food, vaccinations, gear, and that type of thing. So we'll strive to fund all of that through donations. And we'll have a department general order that we have general orders for a majority of everything we do. And this Comfort Dog program would be no different, and that would govern what we would do with the dog and have specific protocols in place. So with that said, Lieutenant Marino, Officer Anderson, and myself are here to answer any questions that the board may have. And thank you for this consideration.
Great. Questions from the board?
Chief? Yes, the welcome edition, everybody's smiling. I guess that's the best way to put it. And the poor dog. I mean, if Officer Anderson is going to be with the dog when school is in session, there would naturally be a break in the summer. However, I guess you've suggested already that the dog will be active throughout the summer. And he can be passed from officer to officer. So is there relief for the dog, or will he be on duty more or less longer than everyone else? How do we handle this?
Yeah, so as far as the school week goes, Officer Anderson will have the dog up at the school. He'll have a place he does have an office space up at the school. The dog can obviously take some breaks up there. We will work very closely with the school to establish a schedule of, where the dog would be on certain days at certain times. We certainly don't want it to be a distraction. So yeah, there would definitely be some downtime for the dog. I know that Officer Anderson gets a lot of his steps in up there each day. So I anticipate that that the canine will as well. In the summertime, we'll plan to work the dog as well, get him or her out as much as we can. But there may be a point in time, where the dog would stay home, during the course of the day. If Officer Anderson has to go to a training or something like that, the dog might get a little vacation time, might take some vacation time from time to time. So
Okay.
dog will get that same break.
This was all said partly in jest, but partly out of curiosity too. So anyway, so it'll be a welcome addition to the force.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. Where will you get the dog?
So that's something we've done a little bit of research in anticipation of this actually coming to fruition. There are several organizations that breed dogs for this purpose, for helping out law enforcement and getting them into the community. So I'm going to leave it to the team that we select. It'll be a small group, and I really want them to kind of build the program, build a brand. I will certainly give periodic updates to Mitch and each of the board members as we move forward. We want to include the school, obviously with the naming of the dog, once we've identified, a dog for, for this program, get the kids involved and just kind of make it fun at every turn. Because it's going to be the community's dog. Mike's going to be the one picking up stuff in the yard after the dog does its business. But at the end of the day, this is our community's dog. So we kind of want to include people as much as we can.
Great. Lieutenant Marino or Officer Anderson, do you guys have anything to add?
I think it's a great idea. I think it'll be very helpful for the school and the kids and the community. So it's a positive.
Super. Mike, do you have anything to add? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, same. I mean, I've had a dog pretty much my whole life growing up between my parents, and then my wife and I had a dog years ago. So my kids are a little apprehensive, but I think they'll be all right. They're excited when I told them.
That's great. So cool. Paul?
Thank you, Selectman Wilkinson. Sometimes our meetings on the Board of Selectmen can be contentious, and any chance the dog can come by, after a tough meeting, because I think Selectman Donnelly and I and all the selectmen are big dog people. So but seriously, this is great. I remember years ago, my grandmother, my dad's mom, was in a nursing home in Beverly, Blueberry Hill, back in the late 80s, and they had a golden retriever dog and a cat that would come down and visit the residents. And it was, again, this is probably 1989, right around there. And it was a very welcome addition to the nursing home. But then they got a new executive director, and he got rid of the dog and the cat. And people were, including my father, went, and said, what are you doing? So that was a long time ago. But now I love the fact that we're doing this, especially with kids love dogs, elderly people love dogs, so this is a win-win. So thank you for having the initiative to think outside the box and do this. So one last question. Any other police departments on the North Shore have these type of dogs?
Gloucester Police Department has a dog through their community outreach unit. I just learned today from Officer Anderson that Peabody has a comfort dog as well. I'm sure there's a few others in the area, and I know there are some additional ones across the Commonwealth that I've talked to a couple different chiefs to borrow some ideas for policy and procedures and those type of things. So yeah, they're becoming more and more prevalent because of, obviously, the strains and stress of the pandemic and some of the things that kids are dealing with in school. This is just another opportunity for us to kind of show that we care and give a little bit back to the students in the school and the faculty and staff, because I'm sure they're going to garner some enjoyment out of having the canine in the school.
Oh, I have no doubt. One last question. How old will the dog be when he comes to Rockport?
So we might be able to get a puppy. It'll depend on, who we ultimately go with for the breeder. If we can get a puppy, I think that would be great. We're gonna have to go, Officer Anderson's gonna have to do the obedience training, some advanced obedience training. So the goal would be to try to get a puppy in and, bring him in from the ground up and train him appropriately.
Wonderful. Thanks, Chief.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I just love this. This is so cool. I love when we have like really fun, neat things and so small town. I love it. And then you'll have to bring the dog to Long Beach now that the beaches are open to dogs again. I take my dog there every morning and it's just like a whole thing. It's really cool. So this is exciting. Thank you guys so much for taking the initiative on this.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions? Okay, would somebody like to make the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that the Board of Selectmen approve the comfort dog for the Rockport Police Department.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectwoman Donnelly,
Aye.
Selectman Lilia,
Aye.
last but not least, Selectman Murphy,
Aye.
Selectwoman Wilkinson, aye. So motion passes unanimously. Congrats, guys. This is exciting.
Thank you
Yes.
so much.
Thank you,
Thanks.
board.
Once
to-
everything is in place, we'll make sure that we let the community know how they can donate to this fund to cover some of those expenses. That'll be a great thing.
And I suspect that we'll interview the dog
We'll be in the
other-
meeting, yes. for
other
sure.
officers.
Great. Thank you guys so much. Nice to see you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.
Great.
Have a good
you.
Thank you
night.
so much.
Moving on, Selectmen, Town Administrator and Selectmen updates. Mitch, do you have anything?
Sure, Madam Chair, thank you. We are in the process of gearing up for our operating budget and capital budget process. The CIPC forms are out to the departments. They've got a few weeks left to get those turned around and submitted in. The town clerk's office has completed the bylaw submissions that need to be done and certified and sent to the Attorney General's office from the last town meeting. So those are done and off to the AG now. I had a conversation today with town council and Senator Tarr's office regarding the special legislation relating to the name of this board. And we're in the process of getting that prepared now for submission. Should be ready to submit probably in about a week or so. So we are moving forward with that process. And we will, now that we have an agent in place and now that we've got at least 4 functioning members on the commission, turning focus to really get things going on that. So we'll be dedicating some significant effort towards that. I've been in touch with the senior member of the commission to talk about some logistical things, and we'll have another conversation in another day or so. Now that we have the next couple of pieces in place, council will be here tomorrow to try to sort through the different filings that are in place and get things ready so that it'll be as seamless as possible once things are running in the next couple of weeks.
Great. Thanks so much, Mitch, again, for your continued work on that. Anything else on your end?
That's it for now, Madam Chair.
Great. Any updates from members of the board? I just had one. I attended last week's Board of Health meeting and I see Ruth George, Board of Health member, is here. They are, hard at work, lots going on. Obviously, COVID vaccinations continue in town. I know lots of people continue to use our vaccine program, which is accessible on the town website. And it continues to be one of the easiest ways to get vaccinated. I keep telling people. So thanks, Ruth, for that. And at their meeting came up the opioid funds that the town is receiving as part of the state opioid settlement. In another hat that I wear, I'm on, I think I've mentioned to the board, an opioid foundation. So I was able to discuss that. And We discussed, obviously, the Board of Health working with the Board of Selectmen on those funds. And I mentioned that we actually haven't had a joint meeting in a long time. So I think sometime this fall, Board of Health, Board of Selectmen are going to do a joint meeting because we haven't done one in a while. So probably be a little bit later in the fall, but hopefully get that going. I think that's it from my end. Anybody else have anything? No? Okay. And we have we'll have one last public comment, but we don't have an executive session this evening. So we will now move to our last public comment. If anyone wants to speak, if they could please raise their hand or use the hand raise function. Monty, I'll turn it over to you. Oop, I think you're muted. I think you're muted, Monty.
That's clever of me.
No.
So, Tom, you've been unmuted. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Good evening, Tom Mikas, 73 Marmion Way. I have a brief suggestion for your Zoom meetings that could have a couple of benefits. If you would enable the Zoom feature for automated closed captioning, then anyone who wanted to turn it on would be able to understand better if they're having difficulty hearing. So that's one benefit. And at the end of the meeting, if the host would save the caption file, you would have a rough transcript with speakers identified and what they said. It's not a perfect transcript, but my experience is it's pretty good.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Anyone else for public comment?
Laura, you've been unmuted. Can you state your name and address for the record?
Laura Kozacek, 293 Granite Street. And I'm really excited, of course, about what's going on with Conservation Commission. So I feel like I need to, pinch myself. Am I dreaming? Anyway, it looks absolutely fabulous. And I just want to thank you for getting everything organized and finding such a wonderful agent. I also have the question of the process, and maybe Mitch, you could check with town council on this, but if memory serves me correctly, I think the Conservation Commission also needs to do something similar to what you've done tonight and vote to accept the agent. And also, I think there is a vote for kind of deputizing the agent to be able to do signatures on certain legal documents that are normally handled by the agent outside of meetings. I think that's what we did anyway with Bert, and that would be the only person that the last agent. Is that correct? And then I have one comment after that about the dog that if I could stick
Just
that in.
on the Concom item. So I spoke with council today in preparation for her visit tomorrow, and she said the commission does not need to take action on it. The selectman is the appointing authority for it, but you do need to do the second vote. So in your meetings, you do need to do the deputization piece of things. So she will craft an appropriate motion for the commission to consider so that they can carry out actions on your behalf.
Okay, that's cool. And the other thing I just wanted to mention about the community dog, I think the comfort dog is a really exciting thing. And I just wanted to mention if the police officers are still here listening, and the police chief, one wonderful use for this pooch to be would be a program maybe at the library, reading to a dog. Some communities have done this, and it is just an absolutely astonishingly wonderful thing to do. Children that are apprehensive about reading, or maybe it gives them a target or something to feel comfortable to actually be in a room. The dog is on a pillow, the kid is there reading to the dog. And there are even stories that you can read to dogs. I'm just saying, I don't know if they're at the Rockport Public Library, but I did used to check those out for my kids.
Great.
Anyway, I recommend it. It's just another really wonderful thing that could be a tremendous help to an early reading learner.
Great. I'm sure they'll check that out.
We don't have to worry about overtime for this dog, right? Considering all the jobs he's going to have. Wow, that's a wonderful suggestion. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Ruth, you've been unmuted. I saw your hand up earlier.
Yeah, I just wanted to just tell everyone that we'll be doing some more flu clinics in town, probably one in October for people. We did one already at the community house and had 75 people. And then we did one at the police station last week with 25 people. They were mostly town employees and people from boards and commissions. At our last Board of Health meeting, we did have school nurse ask if we could do shots, flu shots for the teachers and staff at the school. So October 7th, we're going to be there from 10 to 12, the elementary, middle, and high school to give flu shots there. And then our regular COVID shots will be October 8th and October 29th, 9 to 11 at the community house. Just sign up on the website, or people can call myself or the Board of Health office, and we'll get you signed up. That's it.
Thanks, Ruth.
Welcome.
Toby, you've been unmuted.
Thank you. Toby Arsenian, 95 Granite Street. Going on with the concerns about the ARPA funds expressed by Hazel Bettel and Bill Tobin. Your board has control of the money, and Mitch explained that you have to vote at a public meeting to allocate it to any cause or another. But Sarah Wilkinson said that encouraged the public to express their opinions as to how the money should be spent. So if that's a genuine concern on the part of the board, you might carry it a step further. And that is, whatever you come up with, it would be worth for $2 million holding a public meeting and a public hearing to explain exactly how the funds can be spent and how they can't, and how you propose to spend them. When they were discussed at a finance committee meeting, not the last one, but the one before that, Mitch Vieira named 3 things that you intended to put the funds into, which would imply that some decision had been made.
No, I said, Toby, just to clarify, I
Oh,
said the categories. I said the categories that we talked about tonight are all areas that we would look at.
Yeah.
There's
I
been
don't think
no
Mitch would-
determinations
yeah.
made.
Okay, good. So much the better. So if Sarah's offer for the public to express opinions is a genuine offer, then it's worth a public meeting for $2 million, a public hearing for you to explain what the parameters are, what you see as the proper allocation of the funds, and to solicit comments from the public. And one step further, and I feel that this could not be more important. The money is given to the town, and legally you have charge of it and the decision. But it's public money, it's the taxpayers' money, it's no virtue of your boards, and all of us ought to have a say in how it's spent. And you could engineer that by listening to whatever proposals are made by the public at a public hearing or otherwise, if you're not willing to hold one, and take your proposals or those presented at such a meeting to a town meeting to get the public generally to say, yes, this is how we would like to see the funds spent, or no, this is not how we would like to see the funds spent. So will you consider doing that, both the public meeting and giving the public a say in the dispersion of the funds?
Without Chairman Brackett here, I'm happy to say, sure, we'll consider it. But I don't, one thing I did want to clarify is, Mitch, I don't think we're like sent a check for $2 million, right?
Correct. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, that it comes in the term they use is tranches. So we've gotten some of the tranches, but not all of them. We're expecting the county allocation to come shortly, so it's not $2 million in the bank sitting there.
Yeah, but we will. I will talk to Chairman Brackett, and we'll consider ways to include input from the public. Happy to. Great. Anyone else for public comment? Hearing none. I think that's it for this evening. As I said earlier, no executive session tonight. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Selectwoman Donnelly.
Aye.
Selectman Murphy.
Aye.
Selectman Lilia.
Aye.
Selectman Wilkinson, aye. The motion carries. See everyone soon. Good night.
Thank you, Sarah.
Take
Hey.
care. Good night to all.